Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk, and thank you for tuning in. Let's take a look and see what's on the docket today. First, Pacific Gas and Electric pleads guilty to involuntary manslaughter. What does that mean for a corporation? Second, Colorado death penalty is repealed. Who is spared? Third, Letecia Stauch case regarding cannon stock. What can we learn from the witness list? And why hasn't the judge released the affidavit for the arrest warrant? Fourth, stay-at-home orders. And five, our dumb criminal contestant of the day. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk, and thank you for tuning in. If you have not already done so, please subscribe. Hit that little bell so you receive notifications of when we put out new content. And as always, leave us a comment below. We do care what you think. We try to reply. There's just so many hours in a day. And ultimately, we try to answer the questions that you all ask of us. We get that. Obviously, those questions directly from the comments, so please continue to do that. First on the docket, Pacific Gas and Electric pleads guilty. All right, what does that mean for a corporation? Well, it really means little to nothing. So for those of you who don't recall, a couple years ago, they had the big fires in California. And one of the worst was the Camp Fire, and that was California's deadliest fire. Basically, it completely burned down the town of Paradise, and 85 people died. Now, and when I'm talking about it destroyed hundreds, if not thousands of homes out there, people had their lives completely turned upside down as a result of those fires. Once the fires were out and an investigation was concluded, California regulators determined that Pacific Gas and Electric's equipment caused the fire, which in 2018 obviously set the state's largest wildfire ablaze. PG&E has filed for bankruptcy because they are facing billions of dollars in legal claims against them. The district attorney in the county where all this started filed a criminal complaint against Pacific Gas and Electric. Now, criminal complaints can include corporations. Usually they include an officer or somebody in the board of directors, somewhere in the officer's hierarchy, so that they can possibly be charged as well criminally and face consequences. Really, the only thing that you can do for a corporation when they plead guilty in criminal cases is that you take their money. And in this particular situation, the Pacific Gas and Electric Company has agreed to pay the maximum penalty of $3.5 million, which even when you're in bankruptcy and you're Pacific Gas and Electric, that's still not that bad. None of their officers, directors got hurt in any way, even though the tower that kind of started this arc was literally 100 years old. Apparently no one thought that, hey, maybe we should fix these things along the way because it could cause a fire, Foreseeability, that's what you need in a civil case. Is it reasonably foreseeable if you do something that harm will happen, or if you don't do something, harm will happen? So this settlement still needs to be approved by another court in California as well as the bankruptcy court. The bottom line is Pacific Gas and Electric is basically broke if they don't get cleared through bankruptcy. The governor, Gavin Newsom in California, has said that he's okay with this because he wants to get it through bankruptcy. As oftentimes what takes place, the company takes the hit, and nothing really happens to the people that were in charge. Next on the docket, for those of you who have not heard, Colorado has now repealed the death penalty. The governor signed the bill just the other day, and then he took one further step as he commuted the sentences of 3 individuals that are awaiting a death sentence on death row. The matters were still going through the legal process. and they have drug on for years. So the district attorneys in the state of Colorado can still file death penalty cases for anything that occurred before or up to July 1st of 2020. It's very unlikely that anyone would, in fact, do that, even though that is the law. It'd probably be very confusing for the jurors, unless it is the most heinous thing one has ever thought of doing. Even then, you have a governor who says he doesn't like it and would probably commute the sentence to life without parole. And also here we had the James Holmes case, which was the Aurora Theater shooter case, and he obviously had mental health issues, and a very conservative jurisdiction in Arapahoe County, the 18th Judicial District, could not find a jury that was willing to impose the death penalty. So the question was basically, was the death penalty gone in the state of Colorado? So, as I mentioned, the governor commuted the sentence of 3 individuals that were, in fact, already on death row. The first was Nathan Dunlap, who was sentenced to death for killing 4 employees at a Chuck E. Cheese restaurant back in 1993. That's how long this case has been going on. And for those of you who may not recall, we actually sat down with Nathan Dunlap's attorney, Phil Cherner. Maybe we can put a link to that video where we had a conversation with Phil Cherner. He's been a big abolitionist of the death penalty for years, and he's put a lot of time, energy, and effort, and obviously worked on the cases. Now, Dunlap was an interesting case because the previous governor imposed a stay of execution in his particular case, but Governor Hickenlooper, who's now running for Senate, didn't apparently, make the decision to just commute the sentence to life without parole. At least Polis, he did it, I guess. Whether you're for the death penalty or against it, at least you have somebody that's making decisive decisions. The other 2 individuals that are on death row were Robert Ray and Sir Mario Owens. So Robert Ray and Sir Mario Owens were a couple of gang members who were involved in a shooting and somebody was deceased. Well, then these 2 individuals decided that they should maybe go kill the witnesses so they wouldn't appear at their homicide trial. Well, what that got them was that they, in fact, did kill the 2 witnesses, and that got them the death penalty. And coincidentally, all of these cases were prosecuted in the 18th Judicial District, very conservative part of South Denver, but the demographics are changing. But that was also the same jurisdiction where James Holmes could not be given the death penalty, probably because he simply had such mental health issues, no one was going to go there. Needless to say, the district attorney of the 18th Judicial District, where all these cases came from, was not happy. In fact, he believes that the governor completely skirted the rules as it relates to commutations of sentences, is that he should have at least reached out, consulted the district attorney's office, the victims, and the governor simply did not do so. Needless to say, even if the law was not followed, no one seems to be rushing to go to the courthouse to try and say that the governor exceeded his authority to do so, because then they would simply reach out to them and they would do it anyway, but that's the way the process is supposed to work. The death penalty is it's a hot button issue for most people. Whether you're for it, you're against it. I've known people that their positions have changed all over time. I can tell you, I know most of the attorneys on both sides of all of these cases, and they're both they're all very passionate about the side that they're on. Those that are for it believes that retribution needs to be paid, very an eye for an eye type of punishment that needs to be meted out for crimes for people that they believe just simply have no productive place in society and have little to no redeeming qualities. Then on the other side, you have people that say the death penalty is immoral, that it has a tinge of racism in it. It's used arbitrarily and capriciously, particularly against minorities. And so there's arguments for both sides, and it just depends on what you believe. I've only had one case that was going to go death, and we spent 6 to 8 months working on it to present mitigation to the district attorney so that you never get to a penalty phase in that particular case. And the case didn't go there. It ultimately went to trial. We lost. It's still on appeal some 5 years later, which I think has some really good legal arguments, but we'll talk about that some other time because I think it should be reversed. But it's the type of thing where it's your personal belief. And I've said this before. It was a bargaining tool for the district attorney to resolve cases. When you put the ultimate sentence out there for people, it makes them think, hey, maybe let's just take that deal and move along. Yes, there's a lot of expense related to it, both on the prosecution, the defense, primarily on the defense, because the defendant gets a team of lawyers. You get the main trial attorney, you get an assistant trial attorney, you get an appellate person, you get mitigation experts, you hire experts like you cannot believe to make sure that they get this hyper due process in death penalty cases. And remember, the Fifth Amendment says that you can have your life, liberty, or property taken as long as you're given due process of law. That is why the United States Supreme Court has determined it wasn't, and then it is, and now it still is, a legal punishment. It is not a violation of the Eighth Amendment under the Constitution of cruel and unusual punishment. It's something that's left to the states. The feds still have the death penalty, and it's basically been re-implemented rather recently. There were a lot of cases that were basically put on hold or considerations of those things, and now they're going forward. We'll see how things develop. Next on the docket, Letecia Stauch. She is the stepmother of Gannon Stauch, who is charged with first-degree murder and child abuse resulting in death, as well as a litany of other crimes. And yes, let's make it clear, I misspoke yesterday when I said that young Gannon was a teenager. No, he was 11 years old. For all of you that corrected me, I apologize. I misspoke. But I'm a big enough person to admit that I made a mistake. I apologize. We'll try not to misspeak again. Today's topic, though, is what can we learn from the witness list in the Letecia Stauch case? Every time a complaint and information is filed in a case, the witness list used to have to be automatically attached to the complaint and information, right? Because that just is fair that the defense gets to see who the witnesses are against the defendant. Well, they changed that rule. They don't really do it at the same time anymore, but they still do it. Everyone on the witness list is someone that has done something in the case. They have to be listed by their name, their contact information, and if they're with a particular organization, they need to be listed. Now, I'm not going to go through and list everybody's identity as it relates in the witness list because, frankly, there are a lot of people out there that'll just get silly with it. But I can tell you, there's a 23-page witness list in this case, and it's only going to get longer, all right? Because this is the witness list because they haven't supplemented the witness list just yet with the amendment of charges and the finding of the body of young Gannon down in Florida. But I can tell you the first 2 pages of witnesses, and there's 14 witnesses per page, include agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation who are located here in Colorado. Page 3, once again, nothing but federal agents. The 4th page, more federal agents as well as Colorado Springs Police Department and El Paso County Sheriff's Department. Now, you have to remember, everyone who basically works on a case gets put on the witness list. If you write a statement, you're on a witness list. If you are an officer who puts up crime scene tape and writes a report that says, I appeared at this location, I put up tape and I sat in my car until I was relieved, those witnesses all get put on the witness list. But what does that mean? It means for the defense, you got to obviously read the discovery and see what they have to say. Then you have to go back and see, well, what did they not put in their report? Then you have to send an investigator out and go interview these people again. Now, the police won't talk with defense investigators, and the lay witnesses in the case do not have to speak with defense investigators. Now, the prosecution can't tell the defense witnesses to not speak with the defense investigators, but they can say it's your choice and you don't have to. And, why would you want to help anybody who's helping the defense? And so they make up their own mind that they are not going to speak with the defense investigators. Then we have more El Paso County sheriffs, more individuals from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. But what gets interesting here is that then we start getting names from people from the FBI from Fayetteville, North Carolina, Amarillo, Texas, Abilene, Texas, Frisco, Texas, Shreveport, Louisiana, Monroe, Louisiana, Jackson, Mississippi, Jacksonville, Florida. More FBI agents, Dalton, Georgia, Myrtle Beach, Jacksonville, Florida, Everett, Washington, another Myrtle Beach. Many FBI agents from Myrtle Beach. There's even one from Washington, D.C. As we go on, once again, Myrtle Beach Police Departments, because that's where Letecia Stauch was arrested. That makes sense. We have people from the what they call SLED, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, probably people that were helping with possibly forensics. Once again, more Colorado Springs police officers. Capital One Bank, probably people were obtaining financial records. Nintendo product support specialists. Big Wave Car Wash. Could that be because they found things where people logged on? For example, Nintendo, Big Wave Car Wash. Did somebody get their car washed, and were they there at a particular time? Were they there with somebody in particular? Avis Car Rental out of Colorado Springs, Colorado. Waste Management and Transfer. So this gives you an idea of where the police were conducting their investigation. Kohl's down in Colorado Springs. Probably people looking for videotape, surveillance tape in that area. Looking at receipts. Once again, Petco, probably looking for video, where video was obtained. They have to list all those individuals. Now, there's lots of lay witnesses here that go on for several pages. I'll only tell you the ones relating to Avis Security Rentals, Ring Law Enforcement Specialists, obviously Ring doorbell people. And once again, apparently I made another mistake yesterday. I said Ring when it was a surveillance camera. Sorry, but Ring, that's probably where I read it, Ring Surveillance. Volkswagen dealership in Colorado Springs, JP Morgan Chase, Phillips 66, Come and Go, Conoco, Phillips 66. Perhaps people buying gas, people traveling. As you can see, those agents from the federal agents, Texas, Louisiana, Alabama. Possibly somebody making their way to Florida, perhaps? We'll have to wait and see. So although we don't have the witness statements just yet, it gives us a little bit of idea of how the police were conducting their investigation. Obviously, the FBI, and you can see or hear that they have agents literally just about in every major city, every jurisdiction, and they simply pick up the phone and they ask an agent to help them in an investigation, and they do it. And you've heard of the long arm of the law. That's exactly what they mean, and they're usually a couple of steps ahead of you, maybe a few behind you, but they always catch up. You have to appreciate what they can do in the short amount of time that they actually did it. I know it's never soon enough when you have a missing child, but these police officers were probably working literally nonstop with agents all over the country to make this case. We'll see if they have it. Now, next on the docket, I also want to talk about the release of the affidavit for the arrest of Letecia Stauch. Now, at the preliminary initial advisement that took place, we all learned at that particular time that some 100 search warrants were conducted in this particular case. And that could be search warrants for going onto a property, searching a vehicle, obtaining phone records, GPS, you name it. Lots and lots of work being done. And those attorneys are going to have a lot of work ahead of them as far as going through, because I have to go through all of those search warrants to see if they're valid. Okay, just because a judge signs them doesn't make them absolutely bulletproof, so to speak. You have to be able to show for a defense, for a successful challenge, basically, that there were errors or omissions in that affidavit, that had those errors been corrected or those omissions put in information that would be relevant, that there would not be probable cause. And if there was not probable cause for that search warrant to issue, then that evidence was obtained illegally. So there's going to be lots of challenges to those warrants if they obviously have a good faith basis for doing that. But we also learned that the district attorney did not object to the affidavit for arrest warrant being released. Now, the affidavit for the arrest warrant is simply that. That is what the police put into a document, took it to a judge, and said, we believe that a crime has been committed and that Letecia Stauch had something to do with it. And these are all the things that we did in our investigation, not everything, but a summary. And we believe that probable cause exists. So please sign this affidavit. Prosecution didn't object to it. The defense did. Local media as well as national media have filed motions in this particular case asking that the affidavit be released, that the public, the First Amendment, the press has a right to know, and the right of the defendant to have this information hid from the public is not outweighing the public's right to know under the First Amendment. So you see why I love criminal law is it's constitutional law all the time, and these issues come up. You have a defendant who has a right to a fair trial, right to investigate, but you also have the public's right to know what the hell is going on in their court systems, right? We have public trials here. And as I think if we learned anything, regardless of how much publicity a trial gets, you will be able to find 12 jurors, plus maybe a couple of alternates, that can be fair and impartial to hear the case. So let the information out, okay? Now, I get the defense attorneys. They don't want the information out there. I've been there. I've filed these objections saying there's no need for it. It's going to prejudice my client. I've always had a judge release the affidavit. It's just the way it is. It's the way our system works. We're an open society. The court dockets should be open to the public. It's just the way our system works, ladies and gentlemen. And I get the defense making the argument that it's going to prejudice them because of pretrial publicity. It's not going to allow us for a fair investigation down the road. Well, I get it. They're making the argument. How is it going to prejudice them? What? The people aren't going to talk with you? Most of the people on the witness list are police officers and agents. And the first time you're going to get to speak with them is either at a motions hearing or at trial. And more than likely, they have not a whole lot to say because they weren't there when the alleged crime took place in the first place. All right? That's kind of the dirty little secret. Everybody always puts this huge weight on officers showing up in court and testifying. But if you've ever been a witness in a case or you've watched a case, what do the officers say? Well, I responded, and this is what I saw. They don't get to say what other people said, right? They can just testify as to what they observed. So it's not going to affect the defense investigation. The lay witnesses will speak to them or they won't. The police officers won't. That's just the way it is. They don't talk to the defense. So hopefully the judge will release it prior to the next court date. As we talked about yesterday, it'll probably be June sometime, giving all the continuances that are taking place because of the COVID or the coronavirus or whatever virus you want to call it. But it's making a complete mess of the court systems because it's just continuing everything out farther and farther. So hope that was useful and explained something. We're going to follow that because there's lots of interesting legal issues both on the criminal side as well as the constitutional side, which frankly, criminal law is constitutional law. That's what it is. We deal with search and seizure all the time, 4th, 5th, 6th, 8th Amendments, free speech. We deal with it all the time. Speaking of some free speech, I may get in a little trouble with this, but we're going to do it anyway. So a lot of people across the United States have stay-home orders, or they're going to have stay-home orders. Well, I've got a real problem with this. And if you want to stay home, you should stay home. I'm not a doctor. I am not an epidemiologist, okay? You need to stay home and do what's right for you and use common sense, right? If you're sick, don't go around people. If you think you're getting sick, don't go around people. If you think somebody's sick, don't have them come around you, all right? If you're in those high-risk categories, stay home. Anyway, the good city of Denver yesterday, and I live in the city and county of Denver, so they issued this big stay-home order. And just to show you how they're literally making this stuff up as they go along, they had closed all the liquor stores and the marijuana retailers. And within an hour of the mayor making that announcement, there was a run on the liquor stores and the marijuana stores, and the mayor said, no. Liquor and marijuana stores can stay open, just exercise extreme social distancing. Really? Really? Can you believe that? Anyway, so the mayor comes out with this thing and says, well, Center for Disease Control has come out with all these recommendations, and they're recommending that you do this. And they say this is the necessary intent of the order because the mayor was upset that people were at the park playing volleyball and having picnics when, by gosh, they should be staying home or going to the park and only exercising by themselves. So the mayor said, we're going to make everybody stay home effective at 5 p.m. this evening. But let's take a look at who is exempted. Well, it's essential activities. Let's see what essential activities are, and you tell me whether this is completely hollow and is designed only to make it sound as if they're doing something, but everybody is exempt. All right. So first, obviously, hospital, medical and dental care clinics, research and laboratory services, medical wholesale and distribution, home health care, pharmacies, pharmaceutical and biotech companies, behavioral health providers, nursing homes, veterinary care, animal shelters, and that this exemption can be construed broadly to avoid any impacts on delivery of health care, broadly defined. What is the health care? Then they go on essential infrastructure, utilities, water, construction, skilled trades, other related operations, including airport, oil refineries, roads and highways, public transportation, solid waste, internet and telecommunications networks. Whew. Well, at least we got a lot of those people out of the way. Then we have essential government functions, which obviously comes into effect, right? Public safety, law enforcement, fire, building code enforcement, airport transportation, security, emergency management, emergency dispatchers, public environment, court personnel, military personnel, state legislators, city and county and municipal courts, Denver City Council boards, commissions, and quasi-judicial proceedings. All essential government functions shall be performed in compliance with physical distancing requirements. Essential businesses, healthcare operations, grocery stores, and they go through all the definitions of grocery stores, food and plant cultivation, businesses that provide food, shelter, and physical services, newspaper, television, radio, and other media services, gas stations, auto supplies, auto repair and related facilities, banks and related financial institutions, hardware stores, plumbing, electricians, exterminators, and other services who provide services that are necessary to maintain the safety, sanitation, and essential operation of residences, essential activities, and essential businesses. Business providing the mailing and shipping of services, including post office boxes, educational institutions, including public and K through 12 schools, colleges, and universities, facilities, but as long as they stay more than 6 feet away. Laundromats, dry cleaners, laundry cleans, restaurants. You can't have anybody in your restaurant these days, but you can have a bunch of takeout. Businesses that supply products needed for people to work and learn from home. Businesses that supply other essential businesses with support or supplies necessary to operate. So if you're a business that supports somebody in the essential business and you're a business that supports a business that supports people in essential business, you're okay not to stay at home. Businesses that ship or deliver groceries, indoor, outdoor malls are closed except unless they have essential businesses. Licensed marijuana stores are exempt. Liquor stores are exempt. Airline, taxis, and other private transportation providers. Home-based health cares. Residential establishment facilities including hotels, motels, and shelters. Nanny and babysitting services. This is my personal favorite. Professional services such as legal, insurance, accounting, real estate, and tax preparation services, including ancillary and supporting services. So if you work in a law firm, accounting firm, anything in Denver, and you support somebody that supports in a law firm, accounting firm, financial firm in Denver, or support a company that supports a company that supports a company in the law firm, you are exempt from staying at home. Faith-based establishments, child facilities providing services enable employees exempted in this order to work as permitted. I think the only people that really covers are people that work in the restaurant industry and old people who are probably retired and don't have a job anyway. So you tell me if this order has any effect. And we're not even going to get into the basis of whether it's valid and whether the governor, whether the mayor of the city of Denver can tell people to shut their businesses down. We're not even going there. We're just talking about this order. Ooh, it sounds good. Look what we're doing. Ooh, stay home. It's hollow. It means nothing. It exempts just about everyone. But let's face it, people. You want to think like a lawyer? First thing you do is say, well, let me see the order. And like I said, we haven't even got into whether it's a valid order. But even if you read the order, it means nothing. It's political hogwash. So take it for what it is. But you heard it here first. It is what it is. Those are facts. Those are all the exemptions. It means nothing. So, and on top of that, it excludes essential travel. Essential travel includes any of the following purposes. Any travel related to the provisions of access to essential activities, essential government functions, essential business, or minimum basic operations to provide good and safe service for the structure. That includes travel for care for the elderly, travel for educational institutions, travel to a place of residence from outside the jurisdiction, travel required by a law enforcement or court order, travel required for non-residents to return to their place of residence outside Denver. Individuals are strongly encouraged to verify that they have transportation out of Denver, remains available and functional prior to commencing such travel. So what does that mean? They can't restrict your travel to and from and out of the city and county of Denver. And what is the penalty, you might ask? They say that you could be subject to a civil penalty, not a criminal penalty, but a civil penalty up to $999 per violation. Enforcement actions are intended to be cumulative in nature, and Denver may pursue one or more civil, criminal, and administrative actions, fees, fines, sentences, penalties, judgment, and remedies, and may do so simultaneously or in succession. It's a civil penalty, ladies and gentlemen. It's not even criminal, even though they say it is. It's boilerplate language. Next on the docket, our dumb criminal contestant of the day. Yes, he is Harvey Terratute, 75. He was arrested. Why, you may ask? For pulling a gun on a woman and her granddaughter in a post office. All right. Now, Mr. Terratute, 75, was in the Alpharetta, Georgia post office when the victim, along with her granddaughter, came into the post office wearing a mask and gloves. And Mr. Terratute pulled out his gun, pointed at them, and told them, get away. Mr. Terratute was contacted at his residence where he confessed to pulling the firearm on the two ladies. He was concerned that they would come near him and contaminate him with the coronavirus. Well, Mr. Terratute, you are our dumb criminal contestant of the day. Why? Because if you were so concerned about getting the virus, why were you out in the first place? Second of all, they had a mask on. And third, did you really think the gun was going to stop you from getting a virus? Mr. Terratute, for that, you are a dumb criminal contestant of the day, and you make all the responsible gun owners look bad. And so for that, you are dumb. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your time at home, whether you have to be there or not. Whether you think you're legally there or not, have a great day.